Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to type something else. Let's see if it stopped doing that little flickering thing. It was driving me nuts. So hopefully everybody can find me again. It's still going to do it. I don't know if you can we're going to how this is going to work tonight. This is weird. I wonder if um yeah, it's still doing it. We'll try. I'm going to try it. It's still jumping on my end. This is weird. It's like it's skipping. We'll try it. I don't know if it's everything's going to be okay. Sometimes if I go out and come back in again, everything's all right. But let me see what it looks like on my phone because if it keeps skipping, can you hear me okay? Can everybody hear me all right? I don't see any flickering. Hello. Okay, so you don't see any flickering. Okay, it looks fine to me. Okay. Well, we'll give it a try. It's still flickering on my end, so I don't know why. Um, and you're hearing me okay? All right, I'll see if I can. I mean, I won't look at the camera too much because hopefully it'll be okay. It's doing it on my phone too. So we'll see. You can't see me. I'm here. Had to change computers. I'm here. Okay. So you're doing okay? All is good. Audio and video are fine. Okay. All right. Well, we'll try it. Hopefully I'll turn this around again on me. It was flicking at me, so hopefully it'll get over that. It's still doing it, so hopefully the video will be okay. I'll try not to look at the camera too much. How is everybody tonight? It's a really nice day, isn't it? So nice to get out and have some nice fresh air, and it's nice and warm out, and the house is. I got all the windows open in the house. The cats are excited. So hopefully this will work okay. I'm sorry about this. I don't know if it's looking okay on your end, then maybe it's okay, but it sure isn't okay on my end. We'll see. Hopefully I don't have to replay this and do a whole video for you and put it back up. If we do, I will. I'll sit and do it tomorrow if there's a problem. But so how is everybody today? Everybody's very quiet. We had a lot of people saying they were coming in. So like I said, if you refresh your browsers. I don't think I have anything trying to like update or anything, but it's still flicking on my end. What's happening is like my video is changing. So, but if you say it looks okay on your end, I'm just gonna try it, and then if the video, the recording isn't good, I'll record it again tomorrow during the day and see if I can record it and then upload it for you. So we'll see what happens tonight because it sure is weird on my end. Because I didn't change anything. I have everything on the same settings I normally have it on. So spent part of the day packing for our move. Oh, that's right, Cindy. Did you get your house? When are you going to move? But it's looking okay for you guys. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Maybe whatever it's doing, it'll stop. So because like these numbers keep jumping on my screen, and so it's really weird. So I don't know. I didn't do anything differently, so now it's bad. Is it like flicking? Like you can see me? Oh, you close on the 15th. Cool. All right. So how's it looking for everybody? Everything's perfect. Okay. Well, we'll just try going for it, and if it looks weird, then I will, like, it's just, hi, Jean. Yeah, so we'll see. I like when I move, it's like it's like I suddenly am in fast motion. So maybe it's okay once you look at the scan and cut and stuff. Is the fan causing it? I don't know. That could be it. Let me turn the fan off just a second. Because I got a couple of other fans, so maybe that'll help. I don't know. That once that stops going, it might be because of the way it's trying to focus. I think it's actually worse now. It's still flickering. I was going to wait till the fan turned off completely. I do have some other fans running in the house, so maybe it'll be better. I don't know. Let me see if I can stop it. I can reach up and stop it now. Come on, I can't quite reach. See if it'll stop. Facebook's been doing quite a few things lately with their lives and with Facebook, and so things are really strange right now. So it doesn't surprise me that I'm having some problems. Good here, no flickering. Okay, so if you're not seeing the flickering, it may be okay. It may just be my screen. So maybe if I minimize it, I won't see it as badly because it's very distracting to me. So okay, so what time is it? About 6:11. So we have a bunch of people here. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk about cutting appliques with the scan and cut. And I wanted to get a little more. We know we've done a little bit of we've done a little bit of like cutting appliques on the scan and cut, with in conjunction with like pillows and different things. But I wanted to show you more in detail the mats, the blades, what you need to do to your mat to make so you can cut fabric, what you need to do to cut your fabric. So I'm going to go through a little things in a little bit more detail. And then what I'm specifically going to concentrate on is working with a PES file. Because this machine, there's a couple ways we're going to do this tonight. A lot of designs come with like cut files, SVG files, FCM files, and so on. But not everybody, not every design comes that way. And I have a lot of designs that do not have those files with them. So I want to be able to use my PES file to cut my applique pieces. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can do that. One with the machine, one with the sewing machine. And then I also have another little video that I videoed for you that I'm going to upload to the group, because you can also work with your software. If you prefer your software, you can actually work with the software to do make your PES files work for cutting. So there's lots of different ways to do this. So that's what I'm going to specifically talk about is how can I take a PES file, make it into a cut file directly from that PES file, and use it in my scan and cut. So how can my machine, and specifically for those people who have brother and baby lock machines, okay? If you do not have a brother or baby lock sewing machine, I'm going to show you another way on the scan and cut to get a file to work for your cutting. Okay, so we're gonna talk about a lot of things tonight. All right, so I'm gonna turn this around. Hopefully, like I said, I might bring this little video down so that it doesn't distract me quite so much. And the first thing I want to talk about is the mats. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn the camera around here. Give me a second. Okay, so we're going to talk about some mats. And the mats, let me bring this down so it's not quite so, just a second here, what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down just a little bit so that it isn't quite so distracting to me. All right, so we're going to talk about these mats, and hopefully you can see okay where I'm at. I'm trying to see this in a smaller version, so okay. When you got your scan and cut, and depending on if you have an older one of the CM scan and cuts, or if you have a DX, which is the current models, you got two mats with your machines. Some of them came with a low tack mat, which is what this teal colored one is, and a standard mat. Now the older ones, some of them came with what they called a mid-tack mat, and it was pink, but they've actually stopped making those mats. So most people now will have this teal colored mat and a standard mat. Okay. The other thing that comes with your machine are one of these sheets. They're clear plastic on one side, and then the other side is kind of a green piece of paper. These are what they call high-tack adhesive sheets. Okay, these, in order to cut fabric, you have to have one of these on one of these mats, because this sheet is super sticky, and that fabric needs to be stuck down really firmly in order for it to not scooch around on your mat. So you have to use these when you cut fabric. If you're trying to cut fabric with nothing else on your mat, it will not work. Okay, so you got two of these with your machine. You can also buy them in a roll of 4 if you need to replace yours, if you don't have any left, or if you need to get more. They come in a group, a roll of 4. They're up on our ShieldSewingCenter.com website, and but they come. I had a question about this the other day. They come all rolled up on a tube like this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you get your high-tack adhesive sheets, if you have to replace them, take them off the roll, lay them flat, and put something heavy on them and get them flattened out, because they're so hard to get on easily onto our mat if they are rolled up. They're so curly. So that's the first thing I do when I buy a new roll. I take them and I unroll them off the tube, and I put them in, under something heavy like a box or books, and I let them flatten out real well. So that's why these are so flat. The ones that come with your machine were flat like this and not on those tubes. So that's very important. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to show you is how to put these on. So what I do, I like to use my standard mat, which is this purple one, and most of them were purple. Okay. I use this for everything except fabric. I don't want to put anything on this mat because I use it too much, and I don't want to have to take something off of it if I need to use it. In the instructions, I believe it tells you to use your standard mat for cutting fabric, and put this high-tack adhesive sheet on it, but I do not do that. I like to keep my standard mat for cutting everything else except fabric. So I'm just going to put my standard mat away for now. And we're going to talk about the other mat that comes with your machine. This is the low tack mat. And even though it says low tack on it, when they're new, they're pretty sticky. Okay. So what I do is I take the clear plastic off of the mat. You got to find a place to put it so I won't lose it. And then and I'm not going to do this because you can see I've got one of these on here. It's super sticky. I've already got one on here. Okay. Just looking to see if is everybody still hearing me okay? If you can send up some little thumbs ups or something, I can see them on my phone. Okay. And this sticky sheet, this high-tack adhesive sheet, okay, the shiny side goes down on the mat. So I took my plastic thing off, and I'm going to put this down on the mat with the green thing still on it. The green is just paper. Okay. And what I do is I stick this down on the mat, and I use my little scrubber, or my little the little scraper tool, to get it scraped down onto the mat very, very firmly. Okay. I'm not going to do that because I've got one on here already, but does that make sense? You put the clear, shiny side down on the mat. Then, once you get it on, use your scraper to do that. You can use your brother's scraper. This is my old one I really like, but I've got my little tool set here. And what I'm talking about, you can get these nice brother scrapers too, like this, and this works just fine. I just happen to have the other one out where I could get to it. This is my new little set. I love this set. This is up on the website too. See, it has all the tools in it, and it has a little handle to hold it. So it's really cool, but it has all those special tools in it. And scrape it on, and then remove this green piece of paper and throw it away. Just take the paper off, and then when you're keeping your mat, when you're not using it, you're going to take that clear piece of paper, you know, the clear piece of plastic that goes over it, we're just going to put that back on it to cover it. But that green piece of paper goes in the trash can. It's just a piece of paper. Okay? So does that make sense about the mat? I use my low-tack mat. I put that high-tack adhesive sheet on that mat because I get this question all the time. And then what I do, and I don't know if you can see it here, see if I can get the camera a little closer. I just take a Sharpie marker and I write fabric on this mat. And that is the only thing I use this mat for, is fabric. Okay, so is that making sense to everybody? I have a low-tack mat with that high-tack adhesive sheet that came, you should have gotten 2 of them with your machine, adhered to the mat, and then I write fabric on the bottom of the mat. And that's the only thing I use this for, because these sheets are not very easy to get off. Once you start using your mat and the sheet, they do get kind of cut up, okay? And it's fine, but so I have to replace them every now and then, and they're a little tough to get off, but I found a little tool that at the dollar store. This is one of those little paint scrapers, you know, that has the single blade, the single sided like razor blade in it, one of those old-fashioned kind of scrapers. These work great. So what I do is when I'm ready, yes, the low-tack mats, yes, Mel, the low-tack mats are on the website. And you would have only gotten one mat with your CM350, yes. But you need the old style mats, so make sure you order the right one, because there's 2 kinds. There's one for the DX, because this is a DX mat, and there's one for the CM series. So just make sure that you're reading carefully and you get the right one, okay? And you can get those high-tech adhesive sheets on there as well. But this little tool, what I need to do when I want to take this plastic off, that sheet after it gets kind of cut up, I just take it and I can just score it off and scrape it off with this little scraper, and it saves so much time. So I'd highly recommend trying to find a few of these, or even just a razor blade, but it's easier to hold it with this little scraper. So I got these at the dollar store, in like where the tools and the paint stuff is. So this works really, really well. Okay, so that's how I take them off, and then I put it back on the same way that I just described to you a little bit ago. All right, so that is important. You have to have this sheet on here, because if you try to cut fabric without it, it will not work. And I'm just going to tell you, it's going to scoot all over the mat. Okay, all right, so is there any questions about what mat we're using? I've got a high-tack adhesive sheet on there. Any questions about that? Everybody got it? Marcia, sometimes the low-tack mat, I honestly don't use the low-tack mat for anything, with the exception of foiling. When they say the low-tack mat for the foiling, I have to use one for the foiling. But I do not use a low-tech mat for anything else. I use my standard mat for everything, except the fabric. And I bought a second one to use for the foiling because the way the foiling works, it was too hard on the standard mat. So yes, I do use one, but I have a second one of these that I finally bought. But most of the time I cut fabric. I don't do the foiling as much as I cut fabric. So, okay. All right, so that is the mat. So we're using our low-tech mat with a high-tech adhesive sheet, and I've got it marked as fabric. Okay, now let's talk about blades. I have a DX model machine. Okay, and as many of you know, I'm so excited. I just got the new Disney machine. So I have Mickey and Minnie Mouse on my machine now. So here's my Disney machine. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about blades. Most of the machines come with 2 blades. The older machines came with a standard blade, and some of them came with a deep cut blade, which is purple. The standard one was kind of turquoise, and the deep cut was purple. So those of you who have the CM series machines, like the CM 550, 650, 350s, you need to use your standard blade, which is the teal colored one. That's what I always cut fabric with. However, just like with sewing, I don't like to have, I like to use a separate blade just for fabric, okay? So what I do, and this is the DX model. The DX model machines come with this black blade, auto blade, and they come with a tan auto blade. Now the black auto blade I use almost all the time. The tan one, which we will talk about in another class, the tan auto blade is used for fabric without any kind of bonding agent. If you're just going to cut fabric with no bonding agent, you will use this tan blade. We will not use it if we have to use bond or anything like that on the back of it. So this is used for fabric only that you've used some sort of starch or something on. Okay, so we are not going to use this tan fabric auto blade. It's called fabric auto blade, and we're not going to use this tonight because we are using applique bonding, something for applique bonding on the back of the fabric. We'll talk about the fabric here in a minute. Okay, so this one I'm going to put away for now, but you can see I have 2 blades here. These are both the black ones. Okay, since I have sewing scissors, I like to have a cutting blade just for fabric. So I bought a separate holder, black, and a separate auto blade, and see how I marked the letter F on it, and I only use this for fabric. I also have done the same thing with my older machines. For those of you who have the CM series machines, I didn't get that blade up, but I can real quick here. I bought another standard blade, which is the one in the teal, and see I have the letter F on this one as well. So I got an extra blade holder and an extra blade for fabric. I just got tired. You can just get the blade if you want to. It's the same holder, but I got tired of changing the blades in and out of the holder all the time, going back and forth. It's just a little bit more convenient to have a separate holder. So this one here that's not marked is my one I use for my vinyl, my paper, everything else. And the one that we're going to use tonight just has the letter F marked on it. I only use this for fabric. Okay, so this blade I've actually been using ever since I had a DX model. So my blade I've only used on fabric, and it's a couple of years old now. And this one here is my standard cut blade for my older machine, and this one was the original one I bought, and I bet you it's 3 or 4 years old, and it still cuts fabric beautifully, just like we have fabric scissors. Okay, so all of these holders and blades are on the website. So if you want an extra blade and holder for your fabric, you can get that. Okay, so we're going to be using this black one tonight on my DX because that's what I'm working with. And so I'm going to go ahead and put it in my machine. And I put the one with the letter F on it. Put this one back up here. Okay, now is there any questions on the blades? Because I know some of you have the older machines and some of you have the DX models. So those of you with the older machines will be using the teal colored one. This is the standard blade to cut fabric. And those of you with the DX models will be using the black one. Okay? Is there any questions? Got a lot of people here tonight. Thanks for coming in and spending some time with me, everybody. I really appreciate it. Amanda, if you're only using Terrial Magic to make the cuts, then you use the tan blade because you're not using a bonding agent. So you use the tan blade. The difference between the black blade and the tan blade, the blade itself is a different angle. So no, you would use the tan blade. So when we talk about cutting fabric without bonding agent on it, which will be another class, we may do that actually next month because a lot of people ask me, then you will use the tan blade for that with the Terrial Magic. Terrial Magic, so that everybody knows, Terrial Magic is a very, very stiff starch and it makes fabric like paper. And it works great cutting with these machines. But you do have to use that. I've never found another starch. I've never found another starch that worked well for the fabric other than Terrial Magic. So we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll do that next month because I wanted to do a class at the end of May and we'll do the other fabric cutting then. Okay? All right, so does everybody understand the blades? It's all making sense to everybody? Give me a second here. I'm going to try to... And it works great cutting. I'm just going to turn on my phone so I can see the... Oh, cool. So everybody's got thumbs up. See, I can't see the little thumbs ups and stuff until I get on my phone. So now I can see them. So that's good. So everybody's hearing me. Okay. All right. So we know about mats. We know about blades for cutting fabric. All right. Now we're going to talk about the file that we're going to use. So if you give me a second, I'm going to turn. There's two different options here. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to show you on the CM series, we would use standard blade or both bonding and not bonding. You would use the standard blade, Mel, for both. The standard blade. Yes. I only use a deep cut blade on those machines for really, really thick stuff. So, all right. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is I want to talk about my embroidery file. Now, the embroidery file that most of us are using, there's a few of you that do not have Brother or Baby Lock machines. But a lot of the companies will send you multiple formats of your design, and you can use the PES file just like I am, okay? But you would not be able to do this first method for getting your design for cutting with like a Bernina or a Viking machine, okay? Because you do not have that option, but I'm going to show you option number 2, and that's what you would use, okay? For those of you with other machines, okay? So, and for a few of you, just so you know, what I'm going to do now works in the older machines and the newer machines, but if you have, like Mel, I know you have a CM350, your machine does not read PES files. So you will not be able to do this in your machine the same way. You will have to do this a different way if you're cutting applique, just so you know, because I know yours is a 350, and I think I might have a couple of other people, but if you had a CM550, 650, and any of the DX models, those machines all read PES files, okay? The mass market machines, like the new DX125, which is the mass market machine, that one does not read PES files. So you have to do a different method to get your cut file, okay? So what we're doing is we're talking about all the dealer machines right now. Okay. So I'm going to move over here to the machine. So the first thing I want to show you is I have a PES file that I would like to cut an applique with. And I have put that, second here, I'm going to move my cord. Okay. I have put that file into my, on a stick and into my sewing machine, because a lot of files, we have a lot of PES files that do not come with some sort of a cutting file, okay? And or if you've got older designs, they may not have cutting files with them, okay? So we can fix that in our sewing machine. So this is the way I always used to do my cut files, directly from a PES file, but I have to use my sewing machine to do it. I am also going to upload a video of how I do it in the software. If you prefer to use your PES, your PE design software, or your PEP software, I will also upload that so you can see that as well. But this is a way that most of us have these sewing machines, and we can easily do this. Now this design, just so you know, that I'm using is going to be the class in May. This is some of the designs from Let Freedom Ring. And I did these a long time ago, and we didn't have cutting machines at that time. So I had no cut files for these designs. So I wanted to make a cut file with my sewing machine so I could cut out stars. Okay, so we're going to cut some stars tonight. I'm going to go into embroidery edit, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to make this file so I can get over to my cutting machine. So I'm going to go to my stick, and I'm going to pull up, there's two files here. I have two different ones that had the stars. So I'm going to pull up, this is like the stars like on the flag, the big stars. So I'm going to set this one first. And then what the cutting machine looks for is a specific color, because it reads a specific color as a cut file. And our machine can change the color of the placement line of the design into that color, save it back to the stick, put it in the machine, and the machine will read it as a cut file. So it's so simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, there's this little button here, and I don't know, let me see if I can get a little closer. Okay, see this little button right here that looks like a spool with little color boxes on it? Everybody's going to have basically on the Brother Baby Lock machines something that looks similar to that. Okay, I'm going to click that. That is where you can change colors in your design. Okay, depending on the machine you have, you're either going to have arrows, or you can touch the design pieces up here. Now this is not an older machine, but it's the older style. So I have to use these little thread spools down here, because I don't want to change the color of the first color. I want to go down to the second color, which is actually the placement line for the star, because I want that to be my cut line. Okay, so what I have done is I've gone to that color. I've chosen that color. And I'm going to go down here, and this is going to be hard to see too because it's really small. Let me see if I can get just a little bit closer. There are little boxes down here, 3 little colors, and they're all kind of peachy colored or pink. And the first one has a little pair of scissors on it. And it is the color that Brother calls applique material. All I have to do is change my color to applique material. And now my Scan and Cut will read it as a cut file. So if I look up here, can you see the little scissors up here? See how it's got the little scissors? Okay, so now that placement line is a cut file. All I'm going to do, I'm going to close this now because I'm happy with my change. And at the bottom of the screen here, get a little bit closer. On my machine, I have to go all the way to the embroidery screen. And then if you look down here on the right, see how it says memory? I need to save that back to the stick. So I'm going to save it back to my stick. And I have just created a cut file off of just a PES file that I'm going to sew in my sewing machine. Now let's do the other one. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to my stick. Second here. And I'm going to get the other design, which is the smaller star, was this one. I'm going to set it. And then I'm going to hit embroidery. Whoops, second here, I got to go return. Sorry, I forgot to get the little, here's my little color. I'm going to make sure you can see it. There's the little color screen with the little spool and the little color boxes here, okay? And I need to find my placement line for my star. So I have to use my plus minus spools. You might just have arrows here. It depends on the machine you have. This is a 5200, VM 5200. So let's see. Need to go down a few steps. There we go. So that's my placement line for my star. Okay. And I am going to change that down here with the color boxes to applique material, which is the one with the little scissors. You just look for the little scissors. It's real easy to find. Okay. Then I'm going to click close on this screen. I'm going to hit embroidery. And then I'm going to hit memory. And I'm going to save it back to my stick. Because if you don't save it, then it's not got that new color change. Remember, we changed the color. So you have to save it back to your stick. All right. So that's all I have to do. See how easy that was? Does everybody understand what I did? All I have to do is find the step that is the placement line for my applique. And if you have several of them in one design, do them all. But they have to be that special color. Okay? Is that all making sense to everybody? Send me up some thumbs up so I can tell. Now I'm going to go back to my front screen here. And we're getting ready to go over to the other machine now. So I'm going to move this. Hopefully it doesn't make everybody seasick. Can you send directly to the scan and cut? No, you cannot, Lisa. You can send stuff directly from the software to the scan and cut, but not from the machine to the scan and cut. Is this making sense to everybody? So if you have a brother or a baby lock, you can do this because the baby locks work too, just like the brothers do, okay? So either one of those work. If you have like a Viking, you know, a Bernina, anything like that, you cannot do what I just did because they don't play well together. You will have to do what I'm going to do next, okay? No, it is saving the entire PES file, but now, Denise, when you save something off of a machine to a stick, it actually becomes either a PHC file or a PHX file, depending on what machine you have. So it's going to be a different format on the machine, on the stick, but this machine will read PES or PHC. Okay, that's the old files. This machine will also read PHX. The older machines will not read the Luminaire files, just so you know. So if you have a Luminaire, you need to do the second option that I'm doing here, unless if you've got an older machine. If you got one of the new ones, it'll read it. What software does the scan and cut read? The scan and cut, the native format, Gail, is FCM, Frank Charlie Mike. It will also read SVG files, Sam Victory Good. Okay? Those SVG files, a lot of companies now are including SVG files. I prefer to cut from an FCM file because it is the native format. Sometimes I have trouble with SVG files. So if I can, I like to use an FCM file. Okay? All right, so we have changed that design. Let me bring my notes over here so I don't forget something. Okay. Now we're going to go to the machine. I'm going to put my stick in. Now, depending on the type of machine you have, this is a DX model. The DX machines will read all of the formats from the Luminaires and all the brother Baby Lock machines, Solarises, okay? If you have an older machine, a CM file, a CM machine, like a CM 650W, 550, it will only read PHC. So if you have a Luminaire, you're going to have to do the second method that I'm going to show you in a minute, okay? Because the new machines have a PHX file that they produce. It's weird. I don't know why they had to change that, but of course, you know, they always have to change something, okay? All right, so now we're going to go find that design. And remember, that was just a PS file that I created quite a long time ago for Let Freedom Ring. And I wanted to use my PES file. So I'm going to hit retrieve data because I need to go find my stick. So it's on my stick. And if you look here, depending on the machine you have, my machine is one of the middle machines, and it does not produce this pocket that says B pocket. When I did this on my Luminaire out in the other room, when I was preparing for this class, I produced these PHX files on my Luminaire right here. And they also, as you saw, went into a little pocket called B pocket. The Dream Machines and the Destinies will also produce this B pocket. Can you change SVG to FCM easily? Yes. Yes, you can, Cheryl. I use, you don't have to, but you can easily in the software. It's super easy. There's a lot of formats here, Mel. It's just, it is a lot to do, but it's so easy to get these. So like this B pocket was produced by my Luminaire. This machine will read the PHX files. That's what these say. I don't know if you can quite see it. I don't know if I can get close enough for you to read it, but that says PHX, okay? If I go in here, what I just did just now, it says PHC right here, and then here's my PES files that I had originally on my stick, okay? So the PHC file has that special color in it. So if I bring up one of these, let's bring up the first one here, and it gives you a choice here of a couple different options. This is an applique, an actual stitch option right here, and we're going to use that in a minute. Or this is the applique option for this PHC file that I'm looking at. So I'm going to click this one, and look, there's that placement line that we made that special color. It's there. All right. I'm going to go look at the other one. Let's do the same thing with the other one. We'll go back. We'll get the second one that I produced. That's the bigger star. I'm going to use the applique. This is the applique right here. And there's that file. So this is the way I always, as soon as they, when the 550 came out, the old machine came out, they gave us this option about a year after it came out. And this is the way I actually still prefer this method because it's very fast. And I have a lot of PES files that do not have cut files with them. You know, like none of the Anita Good Design ones do. But I can open it up in my machine, change the color of my placement lines, and I have all these cut files. So see how easy it was. It just takes a couple seconds to do it, and you just have to resave it. Okay. So let's go ahead and cut these quick, and then I'll show you another method. So I'm going to get my low-tack mat here. I'm going to take the clear plastic off. I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay. We're going to cut these. So this is the first method. We'll cut them both. Oop, where'd my fabric go? Here we go. So I have some yellow for the small stars. There's two sizes of stars, and some gray for the larger ones. Okay. These have, we're going to talk about the bonding agent now. These have a bonding agent on the back. This is Heat and Bond Light. If you're going to sew through this, you need to use Heat and Bond Light. This is what you would use on the back of your fabric if you're going to sew through it. It has a bond. It bonds very well. It bonds into the fabric and it doesn't come off. I've never found another one that really works really well for me because a lot of them don't bond hard enough and then the fabric scooches off of it. So I use Heat and Bond Light. That's my favorite stuff to use if I'm sewing through it. If you decide that you're going to make a picture, like I make these pictures that are bonded permanently, that do not sew through it. You cannot sew through this. This is called Heat and Bond Ultra. So there's a couple different heat and bonds. Most of the time I use this because it says right on here, sewable. Okay, so this is the sew step. Heat and Bond Light. That's what's on the back of this. I've ironed it on. Okay, now I'm going to put these on my mat. And if you noticed, I'm putting them upside down. The Heat and Bond is up. I like to cut the fabric down on the mat. I've always done this. It works very well. And I'm just going to rub them on so that they're on there nice and sturdily. Okay. And I have them face down. So when we bring up these designs, then what do we have to do? Since we are cutting face down, we have to do what? We have to mirror the design because we're cutting it face down. Okay. Because that was not mirrored in the design. It's right side up. So we're going to mirror it. So I'm going to go back here to the machine. We're going to get both of these up here. We can cut these both at the same time. So here's the bigger star. This is the bigger one. And I want to cut this piece. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to set it. I'm not going to change the size because I know it's fine. I'm going to edit. I'm going to edit my object. And then I need to mirror it because here's the little button with the two little arrows. I need to turn it over because it's face down. Now this star is almost the same both sides, but it's not quite. So I would definitely tell you to mirror everything. If you're not quite sure, just mirror it because it's not gonna. That's the way you're cutting. I always cut face down. It's very rare that I cut with the fabric, the right side of the fabric up. Okay. Then I want to get the other star up here too. So here's the big one. I'm going to hit OK one more time. And I want to add. So I'm going to hit add. And then I'm going to go back with this little back button here. Oops, add pattern. I'm sorry. They changed this a little bit, so I always have to read the screen. Pattern. And I'm going to retrieve data again. I'm going to go back to my stick. And now I'm going to go get the other one that I made. This was the PHC, the bigger one, and this is the littler one. And I'm going to, again, go to this is the applique icon. So we're going to go to that. There's also my star. Now this one's smaller. So I'm going to click OK and set. And I also need to flip this one over. So I'm going to select it to make sure the red box is around it. I'm going to edit, object edit, and I'm going to mirror. Now, like I said, they're nearly the same, but I know that they are just slightly different. So I want to do it that way. Okay, so I've got them both mirrored. I'm going to click OK. And now, and one more time. So now I'm going to load my mat. And we've talked a lot about loading mats, but I'm going to show you again. It's always good to make sure that you load your mat properly. So I'm going to put this mat up to the wheels like this. I'm going to lay my hand out in front of it. And then I'm going to press let's see if I can look this up so you can see. I'm going to press the button that looks like the little mat button right here. Okay. And I'm going to hold that mat down so it's nice and flat. Okay. Just like that. I do leave the fabric or the paper on the back of these pieces of applique material. Sometimes the paper will come off and that's okay. But the blade kind of drags on it a little bit because it's kind of shiny. So I try to leave the paper on if I can. Every now and then it'll come off on me, and you can still cut it, it's okay. You can cut the fabric right side up, Deanne, but I find that I get much cleaner cuts if I cut the fabric down on the mat. I've played with this on and off for the last I don't know how many years, and I get much cleaner cuts with the fabric down. If you need to cut, like fussy cut, like you need some specific area of the fabric cut, then yes, you can cut it right side up. However, you're going to have to use a different mat because you can't put this paper down on this sticky mat because it will not come off. So then I use a different mat. I use a totally different method. So that's why I normally cut with the fabric face down. Okay? So the next step, since I have both of these on here and I want to cut them both at the same time, I am going to go up here and look, I can scan. So I'm going to scan and I'm going to hit start, and it's going to scan my mat so that my machine knows where those two pieces of fabric are. But I've tried cutting different ways, and this way works so well, and I get very, very clean edges. I like very clean edges on my cuts. Okay, so there's the two pieces, and they're up here now on my screen. So I'm going to get you a little closer. Okay, now I've got them reversed, so I've got the big one on the little piece of fabric, so I need to move them over. So here's the little one to go on the little piece of fabric, and here's the big one to go on the bigger piece of fabric. And remember, we've got them both mirrored. Okay, so there's our two stars, and I'm going to click OK. I am ready to cut. If you have a CM series, one of the older machines, and you're still setting your blades, there are two things you need to do. You need to change your blade setting. I wrote them down here so I wouldn't forget. You need to change your blade setting to 4 or 5. It depends on your fabric. You're going to have to do some test cuts. And your pressure. So the pressure, give me a second here. We're going to choose cut on this machine. And then I can go into the settings. If this is one of the older machines, I want my cut pressure to be at 4 or 5, depending on how thick my fabric is. So for those of you with CM series, you need to set your blade to 4 or 5 and your pressure to 4 or 5. With the auto blade machines, the DX machines, I'm going to leave it on auto. And I like to reduce my speed down to 3. I think that's plenty fast enough for cutting fabric. And it'll take about a minute to cut both of these. And right now I have my half cut on because I was cutting some vinyl earlier. So I need to go back into my settings, and I need to make sure that half cut right here is turned off because I want it to cut all the way through the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off, and everything else is set at auto, and I'm going to let the auto blade do it because I've really had very, very good luck cutting fabric with this machine. It just cuts. I don't have to worry about much, and it just cuts great. Okay, so I'm not going to test. I'm pretty sure it's going to cut okay. I don't need to test here. If you're using one of the older ones, I always test cut on my fabric. I'm going to hit start. Let's see how this does here. So it's going to adjust the blade. And by the way, Brother, with this current situation we're in, Brother has given us the go-ahead to put the Scan and Cuts, the dealer model, the 225, which is the light blue model that I used to have. That machine is up on our website now for sale. You can actually go on the website, shieldsewingcenter.com, and buy a Scan and Cut if you want it online. And they let us do a $100 discount. I couldn't believe it. So it was pretty exciting. So it is up there on the website for sale, as well as all these accessories that I'm showing. Okay. All right. So let's see how we did here. Now you can see that the paper wanted to fray a little bit, but that's okay, because I think it probably still cut all right. It did. And I can grab my little star here. and pull it off. So this is the star for Let Freedom Ring. This is the one for the larger stars. And see, the paper wanted to come off, and that's fine. See, it's kind of shiny on this side. That's where the stickum is when you iron it down to your fabric. All right, so there's the first star. See how nicely that cut? Cut beautifully. And then here is the smaller one. So I'm going to take this one off. This one looks good too. See if I can get a hold of it. There we go. And this one cut beautifully too. Okay. How much is this machine? The DX, this is the DX Gale, the Disney machine. The Disney machine is, I think it's $8.99. And the SDX 225, which is the blue machine, it's exactly like this one. It just doesn't have the Disney. That one is $5.99 on the website. So, okay. So I have removed those from the mat. See how well they cut? Often the paper comes off. You can just take the paper off if you want. I usually try to leave it on if I can. So see how beautifully they cut? See how the edges are nice and clean? And that's why I cut them face down, because if I cut them right side up, I'll often get some, I call them chits, C-H-I-T-S. They're like little fingers that stick out on the edges. And I'll get those if I cut it right side up, because it's cutting through the fabric. It's cutting through the fabric first and not the paper. And it seems like it does a better job with it down on the mat. I also don't think the fabric moves around as much if it's stuck directly down on the mat. Okay, that's why I do it that way. All right, so those are the ones that we cut from a PES file that I created a cut file. And you can do this with any design, any PES file. You can do this in your machine. So see how easy that was? You can do this with any file, any PES, it doesn't have to have an SVG. You can make your own cut files. Okay, so does what I just did make sense to everybody? Send me some thumbs up so I can see them on my phone if you understand what I did. And you can go back and watch this video again. Cutting fabric, there's a lot to it. And I've cut a lot of fabric, but there's two ways of doing this now. And I want to show you the second way. You doing okay? All right. So now I'm going to show you, okay, so let's say you have a Viking machine, a Bernina machine, a Janome machine. You don't have a Brother machine. This is not my first choice for preparing my design, but if I have no other choice, this is a good way to do it. Okay? So they have added this, and this only works, just so you know, this only works on the DX models, the dealer DX models. So in other words, the DX 225 or the DX 230D. It does not work on the mass market machines like the 125, and it does not work on the older machines. So this is something new they added to these new machines. Okay, so I'm going to show you. This is so cool. But it does do just a slight alteration to the cleanliness of my cut, but it does work. No, Denise, so like these stars, Denise asked if cutting the pieces, if you have any trouble with them covering. Normally, no. If you're not sure, what I do is I cut a piece of paper first, and sometimes I have to increase the size of my applique just a teeny bit. Okay? When I digitize my own designs, I bring the satin stitches inward to go on top of the fabric. So I know that I have mine correct. So like these files that I just cut are actually going to be an E-stitch. And so I knew that I didn't have to have I wouldn't have any problems just cutting them at the regular size. Okay? If you're doing a need a good design, cut it out of a piece of paper first, change your design, take your placement line, and then, cut it out of a piece of paper, like get your design started and make sure it's okay. Otherwise, what you can do, let's back up a screen. You can go in there to edit. Let's just choose one of these, edit object, and then you can go to the top the first button right here. And you can, what I'll do is I might just bump it up just a couple of little bumps so that it's just minusculely larger if you feel it's not going to cover. And that's what I do. But with my own designs, I don't have to because I always I bring the satin stitches in. So I know everything's going to be fine. Does the PES file have to be an applique file? No. No. You have to make the PES file in the applique file in your sewing machine like I showed you, Marcia. I'm just using a PES file. But I'm going to show you another way in the sewing and in the cutting machine itself. Okay? To use a PES file. Because this machine now, these newer machines, now read the files more completely. So they actually read the PES files as a PES file and have all the different pieces. So originally it did not do that. So I'm going to go now to, this is option number 2. I'm going to go retrieve my data. I'm going to go back to my stick. And this time I'm going to pull up the actual PES file. This is my file I can put in my sewing machine. Okay. I'm going to pull that up. And remember I told you when we got to this screen, see it says it's a PES. And see when we got to this screen before, if I touch this applique one now, it says it doesn't know what to do. There's no cutting lines. Because we made it into that PHC file. Right, that is true, Denise, that some digitizers do not do that. So yes, I sometimes have to increase the size of my appliques slightly. If you feel, I always do a sample. So if I'm not sure, I just kind of like start my embroidery and then I just put a piece of paper in my cutting machine, cut a piece of paper and check the fit first. And then I go ahead and cut it out of my fabric. If I need to make it a little bit bigger, I can. So that applique, this is that PES file. And see, the machine can't find the applique line because it's not there. It doesn't know what just standard colors are. It only looks, the machine only looks for that special color, okay? And that is not in that PES file that we started with. But this machine will read a PES file. And I can touch this other button, the little flower. This will read this PES file. If I click OK, I'm going to leave it the normal size and I'm going to click OK. Now when you look up here, look at all these options I have. So this is literally reading all the stitches. This is reading the outline of the design. And this is the actual stitch file right here, the last one. So if I need to do this in my machine to get that cutting file from a PES, I'm going to choose this last one because this is the stitches. I want the stitches. So I'm going to choose that one and click OK. And down here, see this little button right here that's blue? That's group. Now I need just one little piece of this file. So I need to ungroup it before I can get into it. So I'm going to click this button and ungroup that stitch file. This is my PES file. And then I'm going to click Set. So now, if I go up here and start playing with this design, I can pull out, look, all the pieces of that PES. We're just looking at a PES file here. See, I've got all the pieces pulled out. And I know that this one here is the actual placement line for that star. And that's what I want to cut. So I'm going to get rid of the other pieces. I don't need these. So I'm going to click on that, go to Edit, and then there's a little trash can. So I don't need those pieces. I'm going to click Trash. I want the stippling to go away, and I'm going to click Trash. There is my placement line for my star. I also want to remember this is right side up. I'm going to cut face down. So I'm going to go ahead and object edit, and I'm going to mirror again. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. So I have mirrored that. Now I could go in and I'm going to get the other one. We can do both. So I'm going to click OK, and I want to hit add. So let's go get the other PES file. Go down to pattern, retrieve data, go back to my stick, and then I need the PES file for the second one, which is this one with the yellow on it. So I'm going to grab that one. And again, I'm going to go to, this is the stitch files right here. I want to go to the little flower this time, because if I click on the applique one, see, there's no appliques. It doesn't know, it can't find any. So I'm going to use this one instead because I need to look at the stitches. I am going to choose the third one. That's the one we need to go into. So I'm going to choose the third one and click OK. And then when I get to this screen, I'm going to leave everything the normal size. And then I need to ungroup it because I need to be able to get to the pieces. So we're going to ungroup it and click Set. Now I'm going to look at the second one here. So I want to pull this apart. Let's get a hold of some of these. Whoops, got the whole thing. Oh, there's the outline. Well, we don't need that. Let's see. That's the satin stitches. We don't need those. So just keep pulling things, and we don't need those. That's stippling. And let's see. There's more pieces to this one. See, it's going to take us a little bit longer to find it. So let's go get our little trash can and get rid of some of this stuff. So I'm going to hit Edit. And I'll need that piece, so I'm going to trash it. And I don't need that outline, so I'm going to trash that. And I don't need the stippling, so I'm going to trash that. And let's see what piece is that. Oh, there's that outline. So I need that. That's what I need. So I'm going to pull that over here. And then let's go get rid of these other pieces because I don't need the satin stitches. I don't need the E stitches. I need that one. Then I don't need the little, and I don't need the bees. Okay, so I got rid of, as you can see, if you get a complicated design up here, it takes a little while with this method to go through all the pieces to find what you need. But if you don't have a brother or baby lock sewing machine, this is the way you have to do it. Okay, so this one needs to also be mirrored. So I'm going to object edit. I'm going to hit the mirroring button right here, the little arrows, and click OK. So now both of these are mirrored, and those were the two placement lines from those PES files. So I can do this right on the machine. But this is where there is a kind of a difference in the way they're going to cut. And I'm going to see if I can get close enough so you can see it. When you cut these, this is a PES file. What if a PES file doesn't have a placement line? Then it probably is not an applique, Marcia. So you don't need to do this at all. If it's an applique, it's going to have some sort of a placement line because that's the way it's digitized. Okay. So, but remember, this was a stitch file. This is a PES file. And when it cuts, it's literally cutting the stitches. So if at the beginning, at the end of these, and I know because I digitized this, there is a tie-in and a tie-off. And when you watch the machines cut, you will literally see it cut the tie-in and the tie-off because it's going to go wiggle, 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 cut, 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 and then wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And that is the tie-in and the tie-off. So that's why I like the other method better, the method I did here, because these, it did not cut the little tie-ins and tie-offs because of the way this one was done. So that's why I don't use this method as much, but if you don't have another choice, this is the way you can do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these on the mat. We're going to put these and we're going to cut these. So I'm going to put my small star on the yellow again. I'm going to put it down on the mat. And I'm going to put my larger one. This is my larger star. And I'm going to put it down on the mat. It doesn't matter where, because remember, we can scan this. I try to kind of get them straight if I can. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to load them out. Okay, I'm going to load it. I've got my hand in the front to hold it down. I'm just going to load them out. Okay. All right, then we're going to go over here. We have to hit OK one more time, and we're going to hit that scan button again. So we're going to scan this in so we know where those pieces of fabric are. Oops, have to hit start. If I hit start, it works better. So I do have a fair amount of people that have these machines that do not have Brother Baby Lock machines, and this is the way that you would get your cut files from. Just pull the PES file off instead of your HUS or whatever else you're using, ART or whatever. Use the PES file and you can get your cut files from it. Okay. All right. So here's my 2 pieces of fabric. I've already got my designs mirrored, and I'm going to pull these down onto the fabric where I want them to cut. Okay, I got them where I want them. Now what I'm going to try to do is put this down on the mat so you can see the difference in the way they cut, because I noticed it right away. Because remember, this is a stitch file and it cuts the tie-ins and the tie-offs. So sometimes you won't get quite as clean a cut this way, but it does work perfectly well. I just usually use the other method. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. On this one, I'm going to click Please Select and Cut. I'm going to verify my half cut is off and my auto blade is on. And I'm going to see if I can get this close enough so you can see the way this cuts, because it does cut differently. And I'm going to hit start. It's going to do its little gyration first and set the blade. But watch the blade. Can you see? Watch when it first starts. It's going to go wiggle, 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 and then it cuts. And then when it gets up to the top, it's going to go wiggle, 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 and stop. That was the tie-in and the tie-off. Wiggle, 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 cut, 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 cut. And then back up the top and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. It literally cut the stitches. So when I see this now, I can see that I've got like a little, I can't get close enough for you to see, but there's like a little, more of a divot on this top little part, because that's where that blade did that little wiggle. It still cuts fine, and it's fine, but I do notice just a slight difference in the way they cut. And I have like the top of my little point here is just a little bit ragged, and I don't know if you can see it clear enough, but that's because it's a stitch file. Okay, but this method works great. It's a little harder if you have a design that has a lot of pieces. I'm going to pull this off. Maybe. Okay. It's a little harder when you have real complicated applique designs, because if you have to go onto the machine and pull apart all that applique design, it is a little bit harder to do it. So if you're doing smaller designs like this one only had a few steps, it wasn't so bad to do it this way. That's why I like to use the sewing machine instead, to change it to that applique material file instead. So that's the way I normally do it. Or I will put this up after the class. I also have a second here, making sure I didn't miss anything. I also use the method with software. I like to use software to make my cut files. So I bring the PES file into my software, and I made a video for you, and I will upload that right after class so you can see how I did it. Okay. How many can you cut on the mat? Oh, Matt, Kathy, you can cut as many as you want. Like Like when I did this design, this is Let Freedom Ring. There are 9 of these stars, these bigger ones, and there's 6 of these. I cut them all on the same mat. You know, I did all the big ones together, and I did all the small ones together. So as many as you can get on there, whatever works for you. I just happened to do 2 because that's all I had. Okay. I'm going to turn my page to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Now is, let's say that there was one other thing I wanted to tell you. So my conclusion for this was between the 2 methods here. This is the method that I cut. We made the file in the sewing machine, and this is the method that we made the file in the scan and cut. They both work very well. I still use this method more because I think it's just a teeny bit cleaner. Okay, will felt cut okay on the mat? Yes, it will. Deanne, however, you cannot put felt. You can. I would highly recommend if you're going to cut felt, you need to cut it on the sticky mat, the sticky mat, but you need to use wool felt. Wool felt cuts much better than the synthetic or the real good synthetic felt. The real cheap felt is very hard to get off the mat. So I usually cut like wool felt, and it cuts beautifully. And you don't have to use any special blades or anything. You can put it right on here, and it cuts really well. And I normally don't have to use a bonding agent on it, but I often have one because I'm doing an applique. Okay? All right, so are there questions? I went through a lot of stuff tonight. Are there questions? Let's see if everybody's still hearing and seeing me okay. So you've got 2 methods that I showed you tonight. One with the sewing machine. If you have a Brother Baby Lock machine, that is a super fast way to get your PES files ready so that they talk to your sewing machine or to your cutting machine. They play very nicely together, the 2 of them. If you don't have a Brother Baby Lock, you can use the second method that I just showed you. And it works very well. Because I know there's quite a few of you that do not have Brother Baby Lock machines, that have the cutting machines. Okay? The video I will put up, so if you want to use, I like to use, frankly, my first thing I usually do when I cut, if I have like a need a good design, I like to put the file into my PE design software and change the color just like I did in a sewing machine. It's very fast, and that's what I do. Okay, so I usually use the software just because I like the software. And I also use PEP. So this Let Freedom Ring is going to be in May. So if some of you want to do the flag, I've got a picture up there on the group. I don't have it in with me. I'm in the other room. But these are the stars from that. I did produce SVG files for you when I redid the instructions and stuff. So you do not have to do what I just did. So when I did mine, I did it this way because I had to, because I didn't have the SVGs. But I did make SVGs and FCM files for you, so you can just cut. Aren't these great, Marianne? They cut beautifully. If you still have one of the older machines, they do cut well. But I would highly recommend, especially now with the deal that's up on the website, Brother allowing us some flexibility with machines on the website, and you can get an STX 225 for $5.99. It's like $100 off. You know. You said you like to use FCM. Yes, Cheryl, I like to use FCM if I can, because that is the native format. If you have SVGs, you can bring them up into the Canvas software and save them back down into an FCM. But you don't have to. The SVGs work fine. I've had a little more trouble. What size is the Let Freedom Ring? It's about 12 by 24, Gail. So I like FCMs better. It is the native format for this machine. So if you can use it, that's the best one to use. A lot of companies do not do FCMs though. I do with my designs that you buy from me because that's what I use. So I prefer FCMs. So I always make them. Okay. Any other questions? You guys had wonderful questions tonight. So hopefully this helped, and hopefully the video looks okay because I'm still flickering on my end. I hope it's okay. I'll go back and look at the video. If it's really bad, I may redo this tomorrow. I'll sit in here and just redo the whole thing for you and put a new video up, but hopefully it's okay. Has it been okay on your end? You can send me thumbs ups. Has it been okay on your end? It's still driving me nuts on this end. So if you want Let Freedom Ring, you can let me know and I will send you a PayPal invoice. We're going to do that in May. Next week will be the software class on sessions on software. We're going to do that really cool embossed letter towel. So we're going to do that next week. And then the next 2 weeks in May will be Let Freedom Ring. So we'll do Let Freedom Ring. Okay. And then I haven't decided what we'll do at the end of May, but I think maybe we'll do the cutting with the Terreal Magic. Terreal Magic is a really, really heavy starch. And so we'll do something like with English paper piecing pieces, or like a lot of you are making masks. You can cut your mask pieces and stuff like that out, but you do need to use the Terreal Magic. Otherwise it doesn't cut very well. So, okay. So we'll do that probably the end of May, because that way we get the two fabric cutting ones, done. So you can cut your fabric. So any other questions? Okay. So thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight. I just love doing these for you. And I'll keep doing them as long as you keep coming every Sunday. This is something I look forward to every week. And I really appreciate you coming and spending some time with me. It means a lot to me. So everybody have a good evening. Enjoy the nice weather. And I will see you next week on Sessions on Software, because we're going to be doing the towels next week. So, okay, we won't have a sewing class next week. All right, so if you need to go back and watch again, go back and watch again, because there was a lot of information, Teresa, that's right. Okay, thanks everybody. Good night. Have a good day.